Boy, it's great to be back in the seat here. We had a little hiatus, and we're back here now for 12 weeks. And we're really excited about that. So I know many of you have seen our show before, and there's hopefully some newcomers as well. We're going to tell you, first of all, what Credit Talk is all about and what we are here to do and what our mission is. So Credit Talk is a non-for-profit corporation set up to help individuals and give guidance as far as credit-related issues, such as credit reports, people who are looking to buy homes, what to do with their credit, how to establish credit, basically anything to do about credit. That's what we are here to help you with. This is a live call-in show as well. And you can see our number on the bottom there, which is 312-738-1060. If you have any questions, why don't you start calling now, because our lines do fill up and most of the time we cannot get to all of our callers. The number behind me as 773-862-4000 is our help center. So we get a lot of calls after the show. Some people maybe weren't able to get on or just don't want to talk about their personal finances on TV. So feel free to call that number, leave a voicemail, or call during the day, and we'll be more than happy to help you and hopefully point you in the right direction. Okay, so our first shows that we had a couple months ago, we had a lot of good guests on there, and we're going to talk about some of the people that we're going to have this season. We had Larry Smith, the attorney, and we had such a great response from him. He is a consumer attorney that helps consumers like yourself when there's issues with credit. For instance, if somebody has applied for something in your name and it won't come off the credit report and there's damages, that's where Larry steps in to help you out. When the credit bureaus won't respond, or if the creditors won't respond, he is your man. We also had Tracy Barnes on from Guaranteed Rate. She is an expert mortgage broker. I have personally known her for, probably 20 years or so, and she is an expert in that field, and we will have her back on to answer your questions. That was a big response as well. We got a lot of people on there. This time we're also going to bring some realtors on, because we get so many calls at the center from people that say, hey, I want to buy a house. What do I need to do? Who should I talk to? Well, Christine is going to answer all your questions regarding real estate. Anything from a studio apartment to a 10,000 square foot home. She will guide you and tell you what you need to do. So a combination of all these things, such as credit, mortgage brokers, realtor, that is the package. That's what you need to do to buy a house. And the American dream is buying a house, raise a family, hopefully have that house for many years. So we are here to help you out. Our big thing that we always talk about, and many of you know, is credit reports and what they're all about. So let's talk about them to begin with. And I have some visuals as well. So what are credit reports? There's really four main sections of the credit report. There's the personal information, public records, credit history, and credit inquiries. So let's talk about personal information. It's basically going to contain your name, your address, your past and present addresses. Now, it doesn't contain your social security number, so that's actually not wrong. And date of birth sometimes. Sometimes I'll see them without. And you can actually opt out to a lot of that stuff, such as phone numbers and addresses. You can dispute that with the credit bureau and get that removed from the credit report. And if you want to know how, please give us a call and we will go into that. Public records. Well, actually, let's talk about credit history first. What that is, you're going to find a list of your creditors, such as your Visas, your MasterCards, your department store, both open and closed. Now, what's the difference? Well, people call us and they'll sit there and tell me, oh, I had so many credit cards in the past. I was great. I was a rock star. But now I have all these collections and late pays. Unfortunately, the past doesn't equal the present. You could have been a rock star back in the day and had great credit with no blemishes, but unfortunately, that does not take into consideration of your credit score. What does? Open credit. Good credit is definitely a plus. Bad credit is a negative. So I always say, think about like a scale. You know, bad credit on this side, good credit on this side. So obviously if you have good credit, it's going to have a higher score. If it's flip-flop, it's going to be the opposite and have a lower score. So that's why we need to have good credit, and we're going to talk a little bit how to establish good credit and what to do to keep the good credit. Let's go back to our little demo here. Credit history, payment history is very, very important. As we tell everybody at the Help Center, you got to make your payments on time. So what the best thing to do is, number one, I don't like seeing when people have 10 different credit cards. They have all the department store credit cards, Visa, MasterCards. It's a recipe for disaster for a lot of reasons. Number one, debt. Too much debt is not good. The interest rate that these credit cards charge can be anywhere from a low one of 12% up to 30%, depending on your situation. So you don't want to have a ton of debt. Now, next problem is paying the bills. It's gotten a little bit better, because of the internet. Now, when I was first doing this show, probably 12, 13 years ago or even more, bill payment online was not as big as it is today. And everybody still would write out a check and put it in the mailbox. And a lot of people still do that. The problem with that is, what happens if it gets lost? What happens if you live in an apartment building, which I did many years ago, and I received other people's mail? And I put it back in the box for the mailman to take, but what if it doesn't get to the right person? So you have factors like that. So it's really important to, if possible, set up things online for auto pay. A lot of the big banks will have a program where you basically, if you miss your payment, and let's say your minimum payment is $25 for that month, it's going to make that payment automatically. As long as there's money in your account, so that way you'll never be late. So it's a huge, huge factor. I get calls all the time at the Help Center, and they'll be like, oh, the payment was due on the 20th, but I mailed it in on the 19th. Well, unfortunately, it's not going to get there till the 23rd or 24th, and they're not sitting there waiting for Mr. Smith's envelope to get there and open it up and say, oh, wow, here's his payment. So electronic is the best. I really do like it. And another thing that I suggest is, a lot of banks will have, which I don't use, so I'm not that big of an expert on it, but basically where the bank will send the credit card money. I like it the other way. Have the credit card company or the mortgage company or your auto loan or whatever it might be draw from your banking account. Because here's the beauty about that. Hopefully, there's enough money in there at the time. And let's say, which has happened, they'll call us at the Help Center and say, hey, Visa says I'm late, but I'm not late. And I'll say, okay, Mr. Smith, do you have money in the account at the time? They're like, yes. And do you have statements proving that on February 25th you had $400 in that account? Yes, I do. Well, bingo. That's basically what I call a get out of jail card, because you had the money, but the bank messed up as far as getting it from you. Now it's their fault. When you have Chase or Bank of America send the money to the creditors, I've seen a lot of times where it might get rejected for some reason or something, or there's some technical glitch. But now, whoever the store is or credit card or whatever it is, they're going to say, that's not our problem. We didn't get the money. Even though you said that your bank tried to send it, that's a huge problem. So, again, my suggestion is have the creditor debit your account. Much more effective. You have your date set up, and just make sure that there's enough money in your account to cover those expenses. Okay, let's go back to our visuals here. Public records. Well, public records equals bad. That could be anything from a judgment. Say somebody sues you, an apartment building, a friend, a business, and they take you to court. And they basically win a judgment against you. Now you owe me $5,000 or whatever it might be. That gets put on your credit report as well. So that's not good. Because when people, especially when you try to buy a house, if there's an open judgment, basically they're not going to give you a mortgage until that judgment is satisfied. Why is that? Because the lien holder, the person that has the judgment, can actually put a lien on the house. And the bank wants your house free and clear of any liens, because what will happen is if you were to get foreclosed or if you were to have to sell the house, these liens are going to get paid as well, and that can interfere with the bank getting paid. So they do not want to see public records, unsatisfied public records on your report. Now, another thing that public records, bankruptcies, foreclosures, collections, that's not really a public record, but it does show on your report. So again, you want to make sure that you also check your report 2 times a year as well. Make sure that it is clean. There's a lot of free services out there that will offer it to you, and there's some out there, but I'm not going to mention them right now here on this show. But again, if you want to call us, we can, at the Help Center, we'll be more than happy to point you in that right direction. Okay, and last, finally, there is credit inquiries. What is a credit inquiry? That's basically any time that somebody has pulled your credit, it's going to list on the bottom. There's actually 3 types of inquiries. There's the inquiry, which is when you applied for a credit card. There is the promotional inquiry. That's when the Visas and the MasterCards of the world say, okay, Mr. Credit Bureau, we want a list of people between 650 and 750, whatever it might be. Then they're going to start sending you credit card applications. If you have scores below that, there's certain banks that will want those as well. So there's those type of inquiries. There's also account review. So when you have accounts or loans with banks, they're in your loan agreements, they are allowed to do what's called an account review. Now, I've personally never seen one of the reports that they look at on these reviews, but they're basically just making sure that you are, hey, you're okay, you don't have all this negative information, because what can happen is, which we've seen, somebody will be behind on their payments, and they will then lower your credit limit on your card. So that's not good. Well, let's go to our first call of the night. Hello, caller.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you?
Okay, so question. The other day I was at a dealership, and they wound up pulling my credit, my God, must have been like 7, 8, 9, 10 times. I wound up getting the car. I walked in there, my God, I think the score was about 700. And when I walked out of there, I got the car, but my score was down to 630. Why was it so necessary for them to pull it so many times?
Well, that's an excellent question, and people call us at the center all the time about situations like that. And what's happening is, you might go to one car dealership. They might pull one report themselves to look at it. And depending on your credit, then they will farm it out to, like you said, maybe 10 different finance companies. And that can be anywhere from 3 to 4 points per inquiry. And that happens all the time. We've instructed consumers that when you're going into a car dealership, tell them that, hey, I don't want my credit report pulled by all these different companies, especially if you have good credit. Unfortunately, the people that do have dings, that's why they send them all out to all these different companies. But you got to specify to the finance manager at that dealership that, hey, I don't want this sent out to all different companies. And another reason that they do that...
If I do that, am I depriving myself of a better deal?
Well, yes and no. What they're really doing as well, obviously they want to get the deal bought. Some banks will buy a little deeper, as they say, with worse credit than others. But some banks will also... See, the car dealerships actually make money on financing as well. So they might be getting a better spread from Bank A than Bank B. So they might be making a little bit more money. So they're also kind of looking at their thing saying, hey, okay, now I got 4 banks that want to take this guy. Which one is going to pay me the most? They don't care at the end of the day because they're going to get money and the car is going to get paid for and they're going to give you your loan. But if they can get a 1/4 point, 1/2 point more on the loan in their commissions, that's what it's all about to them. So that's why. So it's very important that you stress to the car finance companies that are dealers that, hey, I want my credit pulled one time and one time only.
It's very interesting. Well, glad that you are back on the air, and I look forward to the 13th season.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your call. So that is an excellent question that our caller did bring up. Inquiries, as we were just discussing, can be a nightmare. We've seen it. And then the guy will go to 3 or 4 different car dealerships, and it gets 5 inquiries, 5 to 10 on each one. Now the guy's got 30, 40 inquiries. That is not good. So you want to make sure that you specify to the finance manager that, hey, I only want my credit pulled once. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about credit scores. And I've got a couple more visuals here for you. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, how are they calculated? This is actually very, very interesting. So we're going to start on the bottom. 15% of your credit score is length of credit history. So what it is meaning is very, very important that you have cards that have history on them. So don't get cards, have them for 6 months, a year, and then close them and keep doing that. I get it, there's promotions, and sure. But you want to keep a couple of your cards open that have some history. We get it all the time at the help center. People calling us and they're like, oh, I had that credit card for 10 years and I closed it. I wasn't using it and my score dropped. And I'm like, why did you close it? Because that card has history and has traction. It's very important to keep those cards open. So if you have open cards, and sometimes I always say, go to the store, buy a pack of gum, buy something small just to stimulate the account. Because if you don't, sometimes these credit card companies will close them on you. So that's important that you review your credit and your older credit cards, make sure that you use them now and then. Types of credit use. Okay, types of credit use. There's revolving, which means credit cards. Installments, which are car loans, boat loans, motorcycle loans. And there's a mortgage as well. And sometimes that falls under the category of installment as well. So they're looking for a little bit of mix. So having, if you do have a loan, a mortgage, and some credit cards, that is a good mix. And that counts for 10% of your score. Now, also, new credit is 10%. That's why I'm saying, I tell people always, you got to crawl, walk, and run. If you were to get all your negative information deleted off your credit report and then go get 2 new credit cards, you're not going to be a 700 3-4 months into this program or credit score thing because you have no history. That goes back to my thoughts on keep your open credit cards. Do not close them. It's so important to have good open credit. And you don't need a ton of it. My suggestion again, have a couple major credit cards. I don't like the department store cards because of what we were talking about before. Possible missed payments. There's just no reason. Too many people fall into that trap. Oh, we'll give you 10-20% off. If you sign up for the credit card now, and that can be a problem. Now, if you are good about it, you can take advantage, but don't do it on a $30 purchase. If you're going to purchase something for $1,000, $2,000, some furniture, and they're offering you 20% off or 10% off, whatever it might be on your first purchase, okay, fine, do it, but manage it properly. And once that's done and paid off, maybe close the card. So that's important to do as well. Payment history, look at that, 35%. 35%. That's why I'm saying do not make late payments. It's so important to make payments on time. So again, get set up automatically so you don't have any late payments. And we get so many calls at the center from people that might travel out of the country and they'll tell their cousin or brother or whatever it might be, hey, pay my bills while I'm gone. Well, what happens when he comes back? Guess what? The bills weren't paid. Don't trust anybody. Don't do it. Have it all set up yourself. In today's world with electronics and the internet, I mean, you're in Europe or whatever, there's no reason that you can't go online and still pay your bills on time. So if you're traveling for several months at a time, make sure that that stuff is all set up, that you have a record and you know in your calendar that, okay, this Visa card has to be paid on the 15th of the month. Very, very important. And finally, amounts owed, another 30%. So our big ones are really payment history and amounts owed. That totals 65% of your credit score. So the rule of thumb is anytime you have a balance over 30% of the credit limit, that will lower your score. So make sure that your balances are 30%. So basically if you have a card with a $1,000 credit limit, you want to keep that balance below $300 because every time you go above $300, that's going to start lowering your score. So make sure you can, keep it below. And what I suggest too is, again, with the online stuff, make weekly payments. I do it because I don't want to have a giant balance at the end of the month. When you have some extra money or whatever, throw it at that card. Keep throwing it at it to keep that balance down. It's so much easier. It's even, we teach our people when we go to schools and stuff about saving as well. It's really important that, you save. You don't save a lot all at once. You save a little at a time. So, if you save $100 this week, $100, 2 weeks from now, eventually you're going to have some money. Same with credit card bills. Pay them a little bit each week, and that way you're not going to have a giant balance at the end of the month. Let's see, we're going to go to one more thing. Okay, this is very interesting as well. Let me just zoom in on this a little bit here. This is credit score averages. These are actually really interesting numbers, and there are different types of credit scores. So right now we're going to be talking about FICO scores. And if you look at this chart, basically it starts at the low credit score of 300 to 579. I personally have never seen a score in the 300s. 500s, yes, I have seen. So 17% of this country has scores like that. The average, 670 to 739 is 22% of our country. 740 to 799 is 23%. So that is actually, you know what? That's great, America. 23% of you have decent high credit scores. I like that. That's really good. And then the super, super good scores, 800 and above, 19%. That's a lot of people. That's millions and millions of people that have scores above 800%. Now, we get people that call us at the center all the time. Well, my score is 750. I want to be 800. You know what? The score is what it is. There's, the formula that we've discussed as far as your payment history, your balances, that's what I do. But it is what it is. And to be honest with you, anything over 740, it doesn't matter. Your tier 1 financing, meaning when you see these deals on TV, basically free financing, 0% financing for the 60 months or whatever it is, that's the people that have the 740 and above scores. So again, to be an 800, yeah, it's nice and you can brag to your buddies at work and at the bar about it, but at the end of the day, anything over 740 is what we like to see. So just do that and keep that in mind. Okay, so again, we're going to set up at the Help Center a special email box just for our people watching out there. Again, we got so many calls at the Help Center. Probably got voicemails now, and we'll probably get flooded with calls tomorrow because some people just don't want to discuss their personal information on TV, which I understand. So, again, give us a call at the Help Center, and the number again, 773-862-4000. And we'll get you that email address set up next week, and then you'll be able to email us your questions as well, which will be awesome. That way we can answer them via email, or if you want to talk to us on the phone, that's fine. I know a lot of people are busy at work and are not allowed to make personal phone calls or want their coworkers to hear their credit issues. Okay, so I'm really excited about our next 12 to 13 shows here. We're going to have a lot of great guests. If anybody has any suggestions or would like to be a guest on the show, hey, give me a call. Let me see what you do, and maybe we'll have you on as well. So, again, I appreciate everybody watching the show tonight. The staff at CAN TV, I'm glad to see everybody. And we will be back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. here with Credit Talk. Thank you so much for watching.